So here's something interesting. This is the story of how three of South Africa's big four audit firms, Deloitte, KPMG, and PWC, played a systematic and pivotal role through their actions or non-actions in enabling economic crimes and directly and indirectly facilitating South Africa's state capture, which by estimates cost us 1.5 trillion or $83 billion.
The profession has been in the spotlight, as you may well know, following revelations of alleged corruption from different commissions of inquiry.
Details that emerged in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, for example.
Taxpayer money, essentially, that it is spent properly, that it can be accounted for.
Questions around how it was that PWC gave SAA a clean bill of health.
With all the revelations, there is also deeper conversations around how do we tighten up, how do we make sure.
Now in the past we've seen auditing firms embroiled in scandals where they've also had to be issued with fines.
KPMG audited Lingway Trading and other Gupta companies and is alleged to have okayed the payments.
That it's a holistic problem, it's a holistic ecosystem that needs to be tackled. We are going to start thinking that corruption is a public sector problem, but it's actually a business problem in South Africa. But when it comes to the private sector enterprise, the system of accountability is so remarkably fragmented, people are actually able to get away with a lot of things that they shouldn't get away with.
See, up until the State Capture Commission and hearings, corruption in South Africa had only ever been seen as being a political and a public sector scourge, but what came to light from the State Capture Commission might very well have changed many views on corruption, whether corporate South Africa likes to admit it or not. For context, during most of the 2010s and likely since democracy, in South Africa, 96% of the companies on the JSE were financially audited by one of the big four accounting firms. Now, by virtue of many thinking that corporate made them better than other smaller accounting firms, these companies started getting a considerable chunk of state-owned enterprise and government work as well. For those who need to understand what auditors do, well, let's jump into that. An auditor's job is to examine, analyze, and interpret accounting records to prepare financial statements. They give advice or audit and evaluate statements prepared by other accountants. Auditors are meant to provide an essential check on abuse in both private and public sector. When an auditor signs off on financial statements, it provides assurance to the public that those numbers match up and that they are a fair reflection of the financial reality of that entity. The perceived credibility of the big four firms like Deloitte, KPMG, and PwC only added to the weight that the public placed in its work and in its findings. This is also why an audit fulfills a crucial social utility and a public good. It's also why the public cost of audit failure is so high. So what exactly did three of these top four firms do that makes many people say that when it came to state capture, they were tested and found wanting? At round about the same time that McKinsey was clinching suspect billion-rand deals at Eskom, Deloitte started sniffing around and they were also looking for a way to get in. But the tender process was sluggish. But seemingly luck was on their side, because between June and September of 2016, Eskom enlisted Deloitte for its CFO transition laboratory under the directive of Eskom CFO Anoj Singh and Senior Executive Prish Govender. The intricacies of why Deloitte, an external entity, was entrusted with this role instead of internal inductions at Eskom remains shrouded in mystery. In fact, it begs the question, why would a sitting CFO hire a company to train his successor while he still holds the office? A really confusing scenario indeed. The circumstances surrounding Deloitte securing these contracts are very much suspicious. For instance, Deloitte submitted proposals prior to the opening of the tender process. How, Sway? The tender itself conducted through a closed bidding system, typically reserved for urgent services. This raised eyebrows. Adding to the intrigue, Deloitte engaged in off-the-record briefings with Eskom to submit their proposals, prompting allegations from Eskom management of an uncompetitive, opaque, and inequitable process. Fast forward to October 2019, Eskom pursued legal action to recover the funds linked to the 207 million rands worth of tenders, branding them as pure corruption. Yet, in a surprising turn, Eskom and Deloitte settled out of court, with Deloitte agreeing to repay 150 million rand, pocketing over 57 million rand earned between April of 2016 and September of 2017. The aftermath saw the resignations of Deloitte senior employees in response to the Eskom revelations. And just to paint a really full picture for you, Deloitte, entrusted as Steinhoff's external auditors since its listing in 1998, had always vouched for Steinhoff's financial integrity for 2 decades until the catastrophic crash of the company in 2017, which resulted in losses exceeding 250 billion rand, a staggering 250 billion rand. Now, it actually doesn't even add there. I'm going to add insult to injury. Tongat Hewlett confessed in December of 2019 to nearly 12 billion rands of inaccuracies in their 2018 financial statements. And guess what? Deloitte was also implicated in this financial fiasco. This tale is far from over, with 2 or more companies yet to be scrutinized. The plot is about to thicken. The year is 2013. KPMG is the company, and things are about to get really dark for South Africa as well as the company. But little did we know that beneath the surface, KPMG was going to make these nuptials between Gupta niece Vega Gupta and her sweetheart Akash Jahajgari a special day with corruption money. See, buried in the shadows of the infamous Gupta leaks, a sinister plot emerged surrounding the Vrede Dairy project, an enterprise designed from its inception to be looted, with the Free State Agricultural Department playing a role in this looting. Now enter KPMG, a central player in this entire saga. Through their collaboration with the Gupta-linked companies, KPMG facilitated financial maneuvers that funded the extravagant Gupta wedding. Who would have thought? Linkway Trading, a Gupta enterprise, found an ally in KPMG, which not only provided auditing services but also played a key role in laundering stolen Estina funds into Linkway Trading to pay for the wedding. Now, this web got even bigger. It extended to Accurate Investments, an offshore entity within the Gupta's UAE-based laundromat. Now, this company received detailed invoices that it had to pay for the wedding. The even crazier thing is that Jacques Wessels, a KPMG audit partner at the time, managed Linkway's accounts and dismissively brushed aside concerns raised by a junior auditor about the wedding expenses. I mean, why was a construction company paying for weddings? In an even more bizarre turn of events, the same senior KPMG partner, Wessels, and the then CEO, Moses Khosana, they even attended the controversial wedding. They clearly cut the cake at that wedding because they were overlooking what was blatantly a conflict of interest. But the drama doesn't actually end here. When the infamous VBS bank faced looting, KPMG found itself entangled once again. A staggering 2.7 billion rand went missing, was pilfered from savings deposits of ordinary South Africans to fund luxury cars, multiple properties, helicopters, and personal vanity projects of the bank executives. KPMG's involvement reached a crescendo as it signed off on fraudulent misrepresentations in VBS's financial statements, thus contributing to an orchestrated deceit in annual reports and regulatory submissions. In the aftermath of all of this coming to light, KPMG embarked on a remorseful journey, apologizing to South Africans and the institutions they had harmed. A pledge was made to pay back 23 million rand in fees and to also donate the 40 million rand earned from Gupta-linked entities, marked a feeble attempt at trying to redeem themselves and their reputation. In the days that followed, several clients ditched KPMG as their auditing partners. A week after the statement, another 3 private sector clients had followed suit, and 13 more clients were reviewing their relationships with KPMG. Who knows if they ever left? KPMG went on to lose a third of its 3 billion rands worth of revenue in the wake of the scandal. It released its statement in September 2017. The following June, the workforce had shrunk from 3,400 people to 2,200 people. Between the start of 2017 and August 2018, KPMG lost 20 listed audit clients. This was their cross to bear for their misrepresentations. So remember when I told you about Steinhoff earlier when we were talking about Deloitte? Well, interestingly, when the cards fell down, a forensic investigation by PWC was the report that actually revealed that senior management and executives structured and implemented fictitious and/or irregular transactions to misrepresent Steinhoff's profits by over 100 billion rand. Surely PWC as an audit firm is the hero here, Moss, right? No, wait. Before you also clap, just know that PWC isn't nor never has been the hero you think it is. See, the thing is, during the same time, they were busy eating somewhere else. They were busy overseeing the bankrupting of SAA, Sonke Sijongile. In 2021, Treasury told Parliament bluntly that the state had spent over 50 billion rand in bailouts to South African Airways since 2008. Not much of that cash spent resulted in us, the public, having anything to show for it. Corruption and mismanagement at SAA cost SAA employees and us, the broader public, dearly. Have you seen the airline prices? In the case of SAA, the nature of the business meant that most of the annual budget was spent on procurement, nearly 25 billion rand a year. Make it make sense. I'm sure you can kind of see where this is going. So you would expect that any suspect or shady issues in the procurement processes would be flagged. I mean, simple audited things like inflated pricing, overpayment, and non-delivery of services. Simple things, Nje. Now, these simple things should have been flagged or at least resulted in some sense of greater scrutiny by both of SA's internal and external auditors. But this did not happen. PWC and accounting services firm Nkonki secretly assumed control of SAA's external audit functions from, wait for it, drum roll, Deloitte in 2012. Also, I say secretly because their appointment from 2013 to 2016 unfolded as an irregular expenditure by SAA devoid of any legitimate procurement process. Anyways, PWC persisted as SAA's auditors until the Auditor General intervened in 2017 during the airline's most dire period of crisis. Throughout this turbulent time, see what I did there? So PWC and Nkonki as the auditors carelessly endorsed SAA's financial statements for many years, lacking qualification or concern. Disturbingly, they neglected to expose failures in the procurement law compliances or to flag anything. Disturbingly, they neglected to expose failures in procurement law compliance or to unveil red flags that were concealing SAA's internal controls or neglect in their financial statements. When South Africa's Auditor General seized control in 2017, the thin veneer of these seemingly flawless audit opinions by PwC and Nkonki swiftly unraveled, unveiling the truth behind severe audit failures. The repercussions of these audit failures were so profound. As the state kept funneling public money into this ailing airline, and obviously creditors continued their support, thinking that this company was doing well. SAA was doing really well, guys. The auditors carelessly brushed aside glaring errors in financial statements and persistent breaches of the law, conveniently omitting things when they felt that their reports wouldn't be done on time, or it was going to be too much hassle. In an all too familiar twist of there being no consequences for South Africa's internal auditors, each auditor in the SAA case faced small fines of less than 1 million rand for their repeated and serious and gross errors. In stark contrast, PwC and Nkonki shamelessly pocketed up to 90 million rand in fees from their dubious substandard work at SAA. The ethical dilemma of retaining any portion of these ill-gotten gains raises alarms and questions, to me at least, about the firm's moral compass and their audacious justification for their dismal performance at SAA. They say that 1 is a dot, 2 is a line, and 3 is a trend. What became clear throughout the 2010s in South Africa was that everyone was eating except the general public. The politicals were eating, the SOEs were eating, and the auditors who were meant to uphold the checks and balances were also eating. There really isn't any other way to say or see this. We all have to reevaluate what and who we think is corrupt. We need to take cases on their merits and not at face value. I mean, these were 3 British companies who you would think they would be seen as being more above board, but in fact, they were here to assist and eat at the same trough. Taking into account the money lost directly to corruption, low or non-existent economic growth, lost jobs, and the explosion of public debt, and borrowing costs. Estimates of the losses to South Africa range from a conservative 500 billion or half a trillion rand to 1.5 trillion rand. The role played by these accounting firms in the 2010s corruption must never be downplayed, and the penalties from their actions never really matched the damage that they had caused to us as a society. I mean, who knows if things were ever changed inside these firms? I guess the only thing we can say is aluta continua. Also, a big shout out to the team at Open Secrets for making this research into this video so much simpler with their explainers. You should check out their website. If you're keen to learn more about how the South African construction industry looted the country leading up to the 2010 FIFA World Cup, check out this video over here or here. Cheers.